I show that it is 4 p.m. So we will go ahead and get rolling. We are recording, and we're happy that you're back to learn with us in our third session. We'll be talking about print awareness. And I brought another celebrity from my life to join us today. Maybe we're not celebrities, but we are in our own minds.
My head is this big now, thanks.
Can everybody see the slideshow presentation? Good. All right. Okay, so welcome. We'll get going so that we can get out and think about how we're going to put this to work tomorrow. Some reminders. Again, if you're here, then you're registered for the entire series. Every session begins at 4 on the scheduled date, and an email with details and a Zoom will arrive the morning of each session, just like it did today. We will have recordings posted on the Early Literacy website 2 to 3 business days, depending, following the event. Regretfully, some of you have asked where Dr. Nell's session is. We do not have a recording of that. I apologize. Luckily, she gave us a ton of fabulous resources, and hopefully you've been able to get into those in the Google folder. Again, your PDUs will be attached. And I have pictures to show you when we get to the end so that you know how to grab it this time. They will be, your attendance is in that Google form, or by filling out the form, then that is how we know you are here, and then that is how you get your PDU. Okay, a little about us. I'll let my partner go first.
Hi all. Hi all. I'm Lindsay Mahoney. I'm the Director of School Improvement for the state of Montana. I have to say, this star of the show right next to me, my rock, I'm lucky enough to say that I've known her since before I was a teacher. We were friends together. We kind of started our kindergarten teacher journey at the same time. And we taught at the same districts together, and now we're at OPI together. But I have a background in most all elementary grades, but I went to a school with a literacy grant and was fortunate enough to be able to participate in lots of different professional development and grow myself as a teacher. Through that, I would say my specialty is sound walls as a kindergarten teacher. But anyway, just a little like intro thing about each of us. We wanted to do what's our favorite read aloud for students. And I'm going to pull from when I taught middle school. And my favorite read aloud with middle schoolers, because this was a problem with them, was Walter the Farting Dog. And I could really immerse myself in that one with them, and they just laughed and had the best time. So anyway, on to the brilliant creator of all this early literacy work here today, and the star of the show, Jackie.
She's full of junk. Anyway, this is some information about me. It's on the slide. I'm sure that you can read it. I have 20 years in education across a lot of different areas, but what led me into education was reading, and I've stuck with that as my passion from the very beginning. My favorite book is I Love My White Shoes, and anything else by Eric Litwin, or that includes Pete the Cat. I was thrilled to be able to act as a page turner for Eric Litwin when he presented years ago at the MSLA, the Montana State Literacy Association. And that is a big deal if you have seen him present, to be chosen to be a page turner. But he also has characters, besides Pete the Cat, he writes books with Groovy Joe and then the Nut Family. But every story can be a song. And if you do know me, you'll know that I will prove that to you. Every story can be a song. Every word can be a song, in fact, but I try to hold back because not everybody can take my main stage abilities.
Oh, Jack.
Obviously I work with little kids, but I love working with adults who work with little kids too. So onward we go.
All right, just some technical stuff here. The Montana Office of Public Instruction's mission is to provide the vision, advocacy, support, and leadership for schools and communities to ensure that all students meet today's challenges and tomorrow's opportunities. And on to our community agreements. These are actually originally adopted from Browning Public Schools. They use these for their district leadership team meetings. So we're all adults here. Take care of yourself, be fully present, take risks, be mindful of others. I know it's the end of the day for some of you. You've probably got kids that might be running in the hallways or going to volleyball practice. They might need to, you might get phone calls. Understand, just turn your camera off and your mic and take care of that. And then our objectives today. Today, we want to support and help you grow in understanding the role of print awareness in literacy development. Name the main areas of print awareness and learn at least one new instructional strategy that you can implement tomorrow. So we're going to have quite a few breakouts today. The OPI has been learning just different strategies for professional development. So we're really trying to implement that 10 to 2 rule. So we're going to give you guys 3 minutes to introduce yourself. What is your role on a scale of 1 to 10? How comfortable are you with print awareness? And if you have extra time, talk about your favorite read aloud.
Okay, so you should be able to go down to the bottom in breakout rooms and join one. Everybody's back. All right. So let's just talk about for a moment. We're going to get to alphabet knowledge in the next session. Knowledge refers to the understanding or information that a person possesses about a particular subject. Knowledge can more easily be transferred to a skill. Awareness, on the other hand, refers to recognition or consciousness of an issue or fact. So the reason why we want to talk about the difference is print awareness isn't explicitly a part of early literacy, at least not for what House Bill 352 asks us to teach and assess, but awareness of print is a prerequisite to learning to read. It's a prerequisite to school almost, except for it has to be explicitly taught or developed, if you will, since this is an awareness. So we just wanted to talk about the difference. So a lot of what we're going to talk about in print awareness is sometimes hard to attach to something concrete, and it's because it simply is an awareness, a consciousness. So I just wanted to get that out of the way. However, just a reminder, print awareness has to be there for everything that they're going to do from birth through adult. And if you don't have that, reading is difficult. So print awareness is a basic understanding about print and how it is typically organized. There are 3 separate but related areas to consider when thinking about print awareness. They are print functions, print conventions, and book conventions.
So I'm going to start talking a little bit about our print functions today. And so where we're at right now, just think about it in our standards place, is we're in print concepts. We're the basic features of print. So we are those kindergarten reading foundations 1.1. So the first concept of what we're teaching is that print carries meaning and words are distinct on their own. However, we also are going to be linking our words as we read them to our spoken language. Another way to the print serves purpose is communication. Think about when teaching those foundational skills to students. Kids are going to start in the progression, that 3 to 5 progression of understanding environmental print, and that, a stop sign means stop. And even in your classroom, you will probably, in most kindergarten classrooms, there's a stop sign. And that, thumbs up is yes, thumbs down is no. Those are basic forms of communication. Arrows mean this way, the golden arches, McDonald's, like as the kids driving down the road, every kid knows that's McDonald's. Or the bullet, or the target, that's Target. I mean, I know I'm always looking for the Starbucks lady, but we're gonna just go with that print correspondence to speech, that words are distinct on their own. They have a meaning and purpose, and spaces direct that correspondence. Next, we're gonna move into when and how we teach that print. So how we teach that print, we're going to start with tracking with our fingers, modeling. In the morning, we're going to have that morning message. I used to have, during COVID, I was faced with like, how am I going to do this? And kids can't touch everything. So I made little folders for my kids that were laminated, and they followed the morning message. It was a lot of work for me, but they followed the morning message with me, each individual with their fingers. And I actually think that was a really great tool that I didn't even know that I was using. Creating that environment where kids are underlining and circling each word, their name, tracing their name on their name card with their fingers, something as simple as that. When you're starting out the school year, a lot of you are using programs or curriculums like Amplify. And that first unit, those foundational units, they're going to be doing the one-to-one correspondence with counters. And you're going to, as you say the words, the kids are going to be moving the counters forward. And then another, that's just going to move in. That's like a foundational skill. And you think, okay, they're just learning how to, the distinct words. But that can continue on to Elkonin boxes. And then that will continue on all the way up to at least grade 3. They're still going to be using that concept. Another really fun concept you could use is using on Fridays. I don't know where these came from. And Jackie and I used to teach in the same room. Well, she taught in a room and then I got it after her. I don't know if this was a Jackie thing, but there were all these finger lights in my classroom. And I'm like, how am I going to use these things? So little finger lights, I think you can get them from Oriental Trading, but you could put the finger lights on and let the kids trace the words, the letters, and then track with those finger lights on Fridays, finger light Fridays, and you turn the lights out and they get to do it. And it's a really fun, engaging, kinesthetic activity for students. And then we're going to, sorry, I'm getting chat messages here. So then another thing to do, I don't know how to mute the chat. Okay, here we go, is to cut up sentences and put them back together. Let the kids use those large motor skills, and let the kids, first at the beginning of the year, like hold up their name and this is Hattie. Or then you can move that progression on to Jace has the word the, Hattie has the word brown. Carly has the word fox. Susie has can, somebody has run, and you move them all around and you try to make a sentence, and they all know the word they have, and they're putting those words into a sentence. They're moving, they're holding the word. And that's just providing that holistic approach of learning with those students. And then of course, nursery rhymes are great texts for this, allowing the kids to come up and point to the words and understand, showing the connection between those words and illustrations is really important.
We'll go right to print conventions. So print conventions, think of this as it's the physical structure of written language. There are some things we can count on, right? Like we understand as adults who are master readers that you always read from left to right. The text is always organized from top to bottom, right? That there's a difference between letters and numbers and punctuation, but the spaces between them is how you tell the difference until you can read what the word actually is. So those are the things that you want to be pointing out, instructing, taking opportunities with, experiencing with your kids. Use your finger to guide, track the print, left to right. Where do I go next? It's always took me by surprise when a child didn't know what to do when they got to the last word on a page, right? If they don't know, you have to teach them. It goes to the next page and you go to the top and you start again. Let's see. So, some examples for distinguishing between letters, numbers, symbols, and such. You can just do that simply in games. You can sort, this is a letter, this is a number, or this is a capital letter, this is a lowercase letter. But then when it comes to print, you can talk about spacing. I loved spaghetti and meatballs. I used it for my kids when they were creating writing, but you can show them on big print as well. It's a spaghetti space between letters. It's a meatball space between words. And you can use actual spaghetti. And of course, don't use real meatballs. Don't use cooked spaghetti, but you get the idea. You can use Play-Doh meatballs. That's fun. Might want to laminate your workspace. But so how to teach whole group, small group, individually, all of those work. Okay, when you need to do it individually. It'll become evident who those students are. But teach it explicitly, make a plan, thoughtfully plan for teaching this. And you show them with print what you mean. Here's where it is. Here's a space. Is that a letter space or a word space? Ask them to show you where to go next. Where do I go next? I've come to the end. What do I do? You have to sweep back to the beginning of the next. And let them show you, but also let them talk to you about it. Remember, opportunities to reveal language. And many schools that I've been in have a ton of big books. They either came with curriculum that was discarded, or they've been purchased, or your library might have it. If you don't, go to your local library or go to the janitor and ask where we store things, because there's probably a giant pile of big books. And the janitor probably knows where they are. Most schools buy the bulletin board paper, right? So you have that if it's not in your budget to buy big Post-it paper, right? Get words up big. They do the same thing on a piece of paper where Mrs. Smith is writing in 2-inch letters as they do on the book that is 1/4 of an inch print, right? Show them that print does the same thing no matter where you see it. Everybody, hopefully everybody got to share. My manager and Lindsay's previous manager will tell you whoever's talking is whoever's learning. And so hopefully you got a chance to share in your breakout. And while we're coming back in, I just wanted to point out, so, we're talking about learning how to track print and print conventions and, all of the ways to get the kids engaged with doing that. So when you get into decoding, if their eyes and finger are not on the word, then they're not ready to decode, right? So this is just building that habit in the kids. When you're focused on a word, our eyes are on that word. Our finger is under the word. That way they're not wandering around looking for a clue that's not going to help them decode. So it is important, even if it requires a light or a witch finger or a star pointer. All right, let's go on to the next one.
Okay, book conventions. So this is what we're going to teach. We're going to teach book conventions and how do we use books. So as a teacher, like I said, pretty much everyone Sorry. Oh, welcome back, Joellen. Actually used to teach with Joellen as well. So, how do we use books? So like I said, those big books are the best for this, but really when we're teaching these conventions, it's time to be interactive as a teacher and actually promote that movement and do judge a book by its cover. So as a teacher, you're starting out, you're teaching book conventions, you're talking about this is the front cover, this is the back cover, this is the spine of the book. Every time I'd say, this is the author and the illustrator. This book is illustrated. What does the illustrator do? What does the author do? Whole class instruction here. And then this is the title of the book, pointing to it, allowing kids to come up and point to the title, allowing kids to come up and say, where's the author's name? Why do we think, that kind of stuff. Allowing kids to turn the pages of the book is really important. It's promoting that movement, especially in those little learners. And then taking care of the book, allowing kids to take books home, putting them in a book bag, like a plastic bag, not a backpack. And then sending home a letter with parents, or even having that discussion with parents at open house night, reminding them, again, this is how we take care of books, because books are not, we assume that books are readily available to kids, but I'm seeing more and more kids coming into our schools that in the third, fourth grade that have had zero education, classroom instructional time, and they weren't being homeschooled in the interim either. So really promoting the use of books, and these are the concepts that we're learning here. Another thing, just to go over these book conventions, is these are benchmarks that we're going to kind of be judging as we are teaching this. Is, can the kids recognize the cover of the book? Can they recognize individual words in a book? Can they locate a starting point? Can they trace lines from left to right? Do they sweep from the end of a line or an end of a sentence on to the next? So those are just kind of things to keep in your head, as these are going to be the benchmarks that we're aiming for here. All right, and now this is new to me, interactive dialogic readings, and I'm really sad that I could not be here for the Nell talk on this. But this is, it's not just a print awareness, book awareness, but it's actually promoting oral fluency as well when you're doing this, because the kids are so actively involved and engaged in your dialogic read alouds. So this is, like we've said, big books, big books, big books. We're promoting that. And like Jackie said earlier too, I mean, I taught in a classroom that I was one in between Jackie and another teacher, but there were just drawers of big books. Some of them were super old, but you know what? They still can learn from those books. So when you're doing your dialogic reading, it has a peer sequence. So you're going to prompt the child to say something about the book. You're going to evaluate what that child's response is. You're going to expand and rephrase and add to their responses. And then you're going to repeat what they say and prompt them just to ensure and reinforce that learning. As a teacher, you're going to be modeling, this is the before, the during, the after, all the things, but just really creating that oral fluency, that interaction between you and the student, and just a real like healthy, positive environment with books. Something that I did when I was a teacher, I mean, I didn't know this was a thing, but it is a thing, is just to have book baskets. Every morning, kids would come in, stroll in the room at so many various times. And at every table, I had book baskets. They were green. And in those baskets, I had a variety of books. I had I Spy books. I had seasonal books. Like right now, I would have back to school pumpkins and apples, Johnny Appleseed and leaves falling, those books, picture books, really predictable texts. Some of the books would be more advanced. Some of them would just be picture books. Like I said, those theme books. And then Bob books are really good. Even I had some really old, I loved finding the old Dick and Jane books, and those were really good. They were so predictable. Kids could figure those out. Some old weekly readers from a year or two ago that were just, I found them in a drawer. Anything to promote and allow kids to explore books and reading independently. is really important. So
Next.
next, we're going to show just a guided reading, and this is from quite a few years ago, and this is Jen Jones, and she does a really she does great guided readings. It's a real quick video. We prepped it, so it did have sound before we started, so hopefully this works.
Understand we're not promoting guided reading, but
Well, yeah.
this is an example of her talking about book conventions.
Mhm.
And yeah, go ahead.
Illustrator's name on this page. Where's the rest of the words on this page? Good job, Dylan, at the bottom. Yeah, that's the author's name and the illustrator's name. This page is called the title page. It's called the what? The title page. This has got the title on it. It tells us. But let's turn to page number 3. Point to the 3. Point to the page number at the bottom of the page. Point to the 3. I want one backwards. Point to the 3, all right? So on page 3, where's the little girl in this picture? She's right there, but she's also right there. So why is she in 2 places? What's going on here?
Forward it through.
Are draws for us that she's thinking around the thinking tab. Okay, and there's also 2 little dots right there. And those dots tell us that she's not really doing that. She's just thinking about doing that.
So you see, this is a small group. I think it would be difficult to talk about this in a large group, 20 kids sitting in front of you with a small book that you're holding up, right? But they're much more attentive when they're sitting there in a group of 3 to 5.
And
Go ahead.
I want to add, like, as someone that goes into a lot of schools and works and does a lot of walkthroughs, I get asked constantly about, like, how do I use my paras in my classroom? This is a perfect example and opportunity for you to have small groups and have a para in the back of the room working with a couple kids on just this concept while you're working with another couple kids and a couple other kids are doing a center, whatever. But this is a great opportunity for that.
And at my last school, for years, they had a group of women. They were the Finnish Kaliva women, kind of like the Lions Club women or things like that. And they came in on Thursdays, or they took turns, and they were there as long as it took for them to sit and read with every kid in the 2nd grade. Small school, mind you. Okay, so don't freak out. But they came, but they were trained by the teacher of how they wanted this to go. They were trained how to correct a child. Okay, 2nd graders, they're really in the thick of decoding and becoming readers. She trained them how to do it, right? But again, this could be just your volunteer pool coming in, and your preschool or 4K children can say, this is what's in my book bag today, or these are the books that I'm interested in. And they get that one-on-one interaction with somebody, especially if it's someone from the community or someone that they see as an elder. It's really important. So unless your school has rules against it, don't be afraid to tap into your volunteer pool, and don't be afraid to train them in how you want it to look. Be kind though, so they'll come back.
All right, now I'm going to just talk about when I would do a read aloud with the classroom and how that would work and how I would convey meaning through that. So first off, this book is called Carl and the Meaning of Life. I would not just cold grab a book off the shelf. I always my library in my classroom was very organized by every single unit, and I just basically pulled out all the books from that unit. Everything changed in the room, and that was time to teach it. This one, of course, Carl and the Meaning of Life, was great around Earth Day time. But before I even did that, I did a little like background information. We can share these with you. We'll have to create a PDF. I don't know. These are my teaching points for the book. And this is the skills. This is the writing standards. This is the language and grammar and the phonics that, oh, you can't see it anyway, that is used. And then there's the different kind of conventions there. And then vocabulary words. I would go through the book ahead of time and pull out the vocabulary words. My books were covered in Post-its. So as I'm doing the read aloud, I could pull the Post-its as I'm completing that to show the kids. So I'll try to add that in the Google folder for you guys. So anyway, Carl, the meaning of life. I would start with like, oh, there's a lot of ground, like there's a lot of ground there. Why do we think there's a worm in the letter C? Have that conversation. Also pull out like what standards I'm working on. I know I said that already. And then another concept that I would add in this book would be, of course, you know, the Earth Day, earthworm, that kind of stuff. But hey, the words on this page, they're not like normal words we read. What's wrong with these words? Can we read this sentence? Can we still read this? Because it wraps just like an earthworm would wrap under the ground. And then there's quite a few little vocabulary words on this page, which my vocabularies were always on a different color Post-it. So I had pink and then I had blue for my vocabulary words. So on this page, we have the word burrowing, we have the word casting, feasting. And so I would preemptively talk about some of those things, those conventions, those words, and what those might mean for the students and have that conversation so they could really have an understanding of the book. And, you know, when you're teaching about this also, like there's some really beautiful illustrations in this book, and I would point those out and let the kids really explore and wonder as we read the book. But just teaching kids, you know, basic concepts like, okay, 2 words and earthworm, that's all we're going to read there. And then he lived underground, and as we read that, you know, words aren't left to right. They are left to right, but they're not in a straight line. Just different concepts you can pull out of every single book. You'd be surprised after you really took a deep dive into this, how it could be. But also, just back to my side note, like organizing your library over the summer and having it ready to go is really a time saver for teachers, except for when you have a high school student that wants to help clean out your room. And she takes all your books and she thinks it look really good if they were in an ombre effect, and she reorganized your entire library to do an ombre effect, and you come in your room and just want to cry. But anyway, I digress. There you go.
No, she's a great organizer.
She was a great kid. Great kid.
Okay. So book knowledge, what is new or an important reminder? But instead of breakouts, because we are running low on time, can you flood the chat, please? Yes, Jessica, that's true. The table of contents. Especially when it is an informational text. And again, some of the stuff, we're just offering them the experience, right? The awareness. We're not expecting them to be able to use a table of contents or create alphabetical order. Not in 4-year-olds, probably not even kindergarten, you know, it's that continuum of skill, right? We're offering an experience for them. Mhm. Good. The Colette said, a reminder as to why we need to be intentional about the books we choose. That's really important. It's not to say that you're never going to have to kill a little time and pull out a fun book and read. Like, I think Pete the Cat is actually, aside from being social emotional learning, Pete the Cat is the perfect book to kill 2 minutes before the bell rings, because the kids will know it and sing along with it. But when you are trying to make sure that you're explicitly teaching certain skills and covering certain standards, you need to have a good plan.
And Pete the Cat puts them in a good mood before the end of the day.
That's right. They bebop down the hall.
Mhm.
Okay, yes, essential tool, Joanne. So we'll move right on. Assessment and intervention. Again, informal assessment for 4-year-olds, whether that is early literacy classroom, 4-year-old classroom, preschool, whatever you're calling it. It's informal assessment. Yes, you should pay attention. Are the kids picking up on some of this stuff? But it's kindergarten where we're really going to assess this 3 times per year, beginning, middle, end. On this slide, but also on the handout that was in the email. And I noticed, Denise, you asked about it. I'll make sure you get that email again, just so you don't miss it. These are some examples of assessments that you can get. Some are for purchase, some are not. But it is really as simple as a checklist. If you are sure that you have provided instruction and that the child should have some sort of sense of awareness, then you can just use a checklist, right? Formal assessment, like informal assessment, is during instruction, right? You know, are they participating? Do they seem like they have it? Formal assessment should be one-on-one, but in a space where interactions with print occur naturally. The reading corner of the library, not the hallway where there's kids running around and things like that. Lindsay and I learned the hard, we all used to do this, okay? We've all done things that are probably the best way to do it. But do your best, right? And when you know better, you do better. And then, you know what you're going to assess. You're assessing everything that we talked about today. Maybe not all at once. Don't overwhelm it. Don't make it bigger than it needs to be or more stressful. And then intervene. If a child's in kindergarten, they've been to school, their attendance has been solid, and you have been instructing in this and they don't have it in the first 4 to 6 months, you really need to intervene. You need to figure out, is it your pace of instruction? Is it additional instruction? Is it both? Is it something else? I say 4 months rather than 6, but you have to know your child and the opportunities that they've had to learn this in that school year. Again, though, if they don't have it by the 4 to 6 months in kindergarten and they're going to first grade, you have to make sure that they have it, right? You can't just say, well, there's a reason why they didn't learn it. And then these are just, this is sample language on how you assess this. This is assessed one-on-one. There are some low stakes ways to ask kids about this that don't start with what, right? Can you show me how to hold this book? Show me 3 letters on this page that you know. That's one. Can you think of another one? Use your finger to show me the last letter in this word. There are gentle ways to use language that can help us assess the kids on this. And it's important to note, I guess I have down here, we often use the core, where is it gonna be? Core instruction book, the reading teacher instruction book. Much of the information that we're sharing with you today has come from this. I hope you have it. If you don't, I hope you're able to get it. It is an amazing resource, and a lot of what you'll be learning in this whole series comes out of this book. It can truly be your teacher Bible. And I linked it here. It's also linked in the handout that came. Okay, it looks like we really talked a lot extra than we planned to. It took us 30 minutes when we practiced. So let's do this. Flood the chat again. But I want you to take 30 seconds to think about this. What are your next steps? What will you do tomorrow? What can you do in 3 months? What can you do by the end of the school year? Involving your practice with print awareness. We're thinking. Okay, so just tell us tomorrow. What can you do?
Love that. Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm. Modeling,
Mm-hmm.
small group instruction.
Yep, the good news on Finger Lights is you can get about 1,000 for $5. Only
Yeah.
half of them will work. But hey, that's 500 Finger Lights.